I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. President Obama has come to New York for his first look at the damage done by Hurricane Sandy. He took a helicopter tour over the Rockaways and Breezy Point neighborhoods devastated by floods and fires. A total of 43 New Yorkers have died because of the storm. Thousands still remain without power 2.5 weeks later. And while there are no firm figures on the number of homeless, in Breezy Point alone, more than 100 homes burned to the ground. The president's decision not to land near the Rockaways was probably a good one. Besides this dump where storm debris is being collected, more than 50 million gallons of partially treated sewage are pouring into nearby waters every day. A broken treatment plant is the cause. The stench is nearly unbearable and won't be fixed until after Thanksgiving. For more and more people, in addition to the damage done by the storm, there is a growing sense of damage being done by government.
Pamela Shapiro has been spending her days clearing out the wreckage Hurricane Sandy left after water gushed into her home. And now she just craves to be able to turn on the lights.
I feel let down. We've done everything that we were supposed to do, everything we were asked to do. And still that we don't have power it's just mind-boggling.
The basement ruined in Shapiro's home had just been redone after damage from Hurricane Irene last year. And her breaking point came Tuesday when a promise of restored power was nixed because of a snafu with her electrician's inspection.
For a moment, I just said, I wish I was younger again and my parents were here to take care of me. Just to make it better for half an hour. That's it. I just didn't want to be an adult for half an hour. And that's it.
Shapiro considers herself lucky. Not far from her, there are families who can't live in their homes. The retirement house that Al Adleon and his wife Sandy bought 3 years ago is now destroyed. And he says he's waiting for any kind of help to rebuild.
It's just frustrating and getting angry by the day. You know, that's how I feel.
To be clear, there are visible signs of help everywhere you go, from the military to utility trucks from other parts of the country arriving on the scene. Volunteers have fanned out in the area, bringing much-needed relief. Still, with Manhattan visible from this peninsula, some are in disbelief.
It doesn't seem like New York. I feel like we're in a third world country right now.
But despite comparisons to war zones and scenes of destruction, there are vows to rebuild and not retreat.
CNN's Mary Snow. After his helicopter landed on Staten Island, the president visited with several residents inside an emergency tent set up by FEMA. Today's New York visit is the president's first because Mayor Bloomberg had told him to stay away from the city when Mr. Obama came to New Jersey, fearing his presence and the accompanying security would hamper rescue and recovery efforts. The president, after meeting with the Staten Islanders, joined with the governor, mayor, and New York's 2 senators. He praised the rescuers.
Across the board, what we've seen is cooperation and a spirit of service. And, you know, for the first responders who are here, the police officers, the firefighters, the EMS folks, the sanitation workers who sometimes don't get credit but have done heroic work, we are so grateful to you because you exemplify what America is all about.
White House Press Secretary Jay Carney says a lot of work still needs to be done to recover from the storm. Meantime, Mayor Bloomberg is boasting that electricity has been restored to the city's public housing projects. He sent out a tweet. What he did not mention, most of the projects are still without heat and hot water. And not everything about the storm, the damage, and the aftermath is discouraging. Now we learn more about a magical discovery.
Kathleen Mullen was lucky. The only thing she lost during Hurricane Sandy was power. What she found was remarkable. During a stroll along the Henry Hudson Trail in Atlantic Highlands, the day after, she stumbled across a stack of letters.
They were obviously tied with a pink ribbon, so I automatically knew that they were love letters.
She took them home, dried them in front of the fireplace, and under the light of the fire began to read.
There isn't much more to tell you tonight, dear. I love you very much. Yours always, Dottie.
The letters were written between 1942 and 1947 by Dorothy Fallon of Rumson, New Jersey, to her betrothed, Lynn Farnham of Vermont, and Kathleen wanted to get the letters back to them.
Kathleen took her search to the internet, posting on Facebook, Craigslist, and a website called findagrave.com, and that's where Dorothy and Lynn's niece found her.
It just stops you cold. You just go, this can't be be real.
We spoke to Shelley Farnham Hilber at her home in Virginia. She says Lynn served in World War II and was at Pearl Harbor. The couple married and had 2 children. Lynn and the couple's son are now deceased, though. Dorothy resides in a nursing home, and the family has lost touch with the couple's daughter.
It's like a genealogical gold mine. It's just that moment that you think is lost forever, and then here is something. It's a gift.
It kind of sent the message that love conquers all, you know, and such devastation. Something so delicate just washes ashore.
Indeed, though, Sandy washed away so much: homes, memories, lives. She couldn't wash away nearly 70-year-old ink. She couldn't wash away true love.
A truly amazing story. Next, talk of reviving a Catholic practice from the past as Currents continues after the break. Welcome back. The drums of war are thundering in the Middle East. The Syrians continue to kill each other. Iran builds its military might, and Israel has launched a furious assault against the terrorists of Hamas by ground, sea, and air forces. Israeli warplanes attacked a series of targets in Gaza, hitting rocket bases used by Hamas to attack Israel. This footage from the gun cameras of Israeli jets show the strikes. The missiles are in retaliation for a 5-day-long air assault on Israeli territory by Hamas rockets launched from the bases. Israeli tanks and Navy gunboats are joining in the shelling, targeting Hamas positions in Gaza City. At least 15 Palestinians have been killed, including 4 children. More than 100 have been wounded since the operation began yesterday. The offensive follows a precision strike in broad daylight that killed the military commander of Hamas. Now, while most people in Gaza have locked themselves indoors as war rages outside, about 400 attended the funeral of the military chief. Meantime, the Israeli ambassador to the United States is explaining why the military has been unleashed.
But we've sent a message, a very powerful message to the terrorists of Gaza, saying, stop it. You cannot shoot with impunity at our citizens. And if they internalize that message and they stop shooting, then there will be no further escalation. The U.S. reaction is to express complete understanding of our situation and support for our right to defend our citizens from terrorist attack.
Still, 3 Israelis are dead, 2 men and a woman, and 3 children wounded after a Hamas rocket hit this apartment building located in an area near Gaza. In a matter of hours, more than 100 rockets hit Israel. Military leaders in Tel Aviv have not ruled out a ground war. And from Cairo comes a warning that Egypt will not stand by quietly while the fighting rages. The ambassador to Israel has been recalled. States of emergency have been declared in both Gaza and Israel. All of this, the worst fighting in 4 years, follows an Israeli-Syrian exchange of missiles and artillery, the first such action in 40 years. Meantime, a Catholic priest in the Syrian town of Aleppo is describing an apocalyptic scene of death and destruction. He writes that he is alive but wonders for how long. He tells of desperate people that have fled Aleppo while those left behind are being kidnapped and killed. In our country, the Archbishop in charge of migration matters is calling upon President Obama and Congress to seize the moment. Archbishop Jose Gomez says now is the time to enact just and humane immigration reform in the U.S. The Archbishop's plea comes as the U.S. bishops meet in Baltimore. The president of the Bishops' Conference, Cardinal Dolan, caused a bit of a stir when he proposed reconsideration of Meatless Fridays as an act of penance.
The work of our conference during this coming year that we're going to talk about the next couple days includes reflections on re-embracing Friday as a particular day of penance, including the possible re-invitation of abstinence on all Fridays of the year, not just during Lent.
The bishops have not processed it or discussed it at all at this point, but I can certainly see what he's saying in the sense that, you know, we're all sinners and we all are called to conversion, and abstaining from meat on Fridays is a traditional way of the church to call people's attention to the basics and to the fundamentals of the faith. And by giving up something together, whatever that is, it really helps us to focus in on who we are and who Jesus calls us to be.
But I think it's more meaningful, more complete if people understand why they're doing what they're doing and that they see it as an important commitment to do penance, because it's not just in and of itself, it doesn't accomplish anything. As a matter of fact, you can have lobster thermidor. It could be kind of tasty on a Friday. You can have some wonderful fish dishes, and some people prefer that to meat, and it's healthier for you, and there's all kinds of benefits. The point is that you're giving something up, you're abstaining with the idea that it's a symbol of my dependency on God, that I don't have everything I need, that I don't have everything I want, that I need God. God is my only total fulfillment. And so abstaining is a reminder of my poverty, a reminder of my neediness, a reminder of my dependency on God. So that's why we do it. If we lose sight of that, if we're just doing it because look how good I am, or pat myself on the shoulder, then we're missing the point.
During the time of Paul VI, he relaxed the universal requirement about that and challenged the church to do even more significant kinds of sacrifice than just abstinence. For example, setting a day aside for fasting, doing extra works of mercy. So he challenged the church to be even more penitential, and somehow that part of his document or his teaching has just been lost. Certainly I'm open to looking into it and discussing it.
So the idea itself is good, to abstain, to do some acts of penance. Those are all good ideas. A whole complete separate issue is, do we make it mandatory or not? That's another question.
A question to be decided on another day. Up next, the China-Hollywood connection and the health dangers after the storm, as Currents continues after the break. China is presenting its new leadership team to the world. These 7 men are the members of the committee that will run the country for the next 10 years. And Xi Jinping, seen here, will be the man in charge overall as he becomes the head of the Communist Party and the president of China. Experts say his toughest task will be managing the country's economy. As that economy has boomed in recent years, it seems most everything now carries a Made in China label, including one product that might surprise you.
An American superhero, but one partially made in China. The newest Iron Man movie, a joint production between Marvel Films and a Chinese media company, reflects a new kind of partnership, giving American filmmakers a better chance at reaching the expanding Chinese market.
Just to give you some perspective, in China they're building about 10 movie screens a day in China. They've more than doubled their IMAX theaters.
Some projections say China could be the largest movie market in the world by 2020, but with a current cap of only 34 foreign films a year, most American filmmakers find themselves on the outside looking in, which is why companies like DreamWorks and filmmakers like James Cameron are developing partnerships with Chinese production companies. Former Senator Chris Dodd, currently head of the Motion Picture Association of America, says those partnerships are vitally important to Hollywood.
There is no limitation on quotas on co-production between U.S. and Chinese films, so that opens up tremendous opportunities beyond the 34 films that are allowed into China on a yearly basis.
Of course, Hollywood's happy ending hasn't been written just yet. Variety's Rachel Abrams points out there are still challenges for filmmakers in China, including government censorship.
There are certainly a lot of obstacles to getting a film into China. It's not even just getting your film past a censor, it's also just knowing who to work with in China.
And while co-productions of films like the upcoming Iron Man 3 get a lot of attention, Abrams says these collaborations are still relatively few and far between.
Last year, according to the China Film Group, only 5 films got in with official co-production status. That's not to say that other things didn't get in through other ways, but those 5 films, none of those were American films.
Even incremental increases help the American film industry.
This morning, some 2.1 million people got up in the United States and went to work on a job dependent, not direct hires, but dependent on the film and television industry. And China is a growing market, so those are thousands of jobs that can be created as a result of that increase in availability of that market.
CNN's Nichelle Turner reporting. The number of people filing new unemployment claims spiked in the U.S. last week, and the blame is being placed on the disruptions caused by Hurricane Sandy. Not all the dangers from the storm, though, are obvious right away. To get some help with health risks, I spoke with Dr. Stephen Garner, the host of our Ask the Doctor program, for advice on how to handle things damaged in the storm.
Whatever was in the ground got swooped up in the ground into this flood which now contaminated your house, contaminated the kids' toys, contaminated your furniture, contaminated food. So anything that came in contact with water is pretty much not a no-no, because you have stuff such as lead or arsenic that could be attached to these toys, and the kid puts it in his mouth, or even you put it in your mouth, touch your hand to it, it's going to be a big problem. So you don't want to save too much of this stuff. You also have mold growing on a lot of the furniture. Mold is a big cause of asthma in kids. So, after Katrina, we saw a 50% increase in asthma. So a tremendous number of kids are sensitive. Even adults may be sensitive and have respiratory problems, similar to the World Trade Center.
And clarify for us, please, Dr. Gardner. I mean, people walk into their bathrooms and they see like little traces of mold on a regular basis. There is a very specific kind of mold that poses an extreme health risk. Can you talk to us a little bit about the exact nature of that mold?
This mold grows on the walls and gives off spores that get into the air, get into your nose, and you don't even realize it. It colonizes the lungs through the bronchial tubes. You walk around feeling sick, you don't know why. You feel tired, you feel depressed, and you may even miss it if the wall is dirty. And it's only can be removed by a licensed exterminator at this point.
Now, there are people, obviously, who have been affected. They have heart conditions. They suffer from asthma. They may be diabetic. They may have cancer. What is your best advice for people that need medication and treatment on a daily basis? What should they do?
See, one of the biggest groups I get here from are the diabetics. Where do I get my insulin? The refrigerator's out. Usually for a few days, the insulin is good. If you don't have anything else, it's better to use what you have because it will be effective to some degree. But people on heart medicine, these medicines cannot be stopped instantly. Otherwise, if you stop it suddenly, you may end up getting a heart attack. So you got to try and get in touch with the doctor. And I know I've answered many questions for people who cannot get in touch with their doctors. So you have to approach any doctor, or pharmacist is a great source. They have a great knowledge of the medications. And these are danger medications. Antibiotics you may have been taking, you can't stop it in the middle, it won't affect it. Children may be in the middle of immunizations, getting the hepatitis or getting the chickenpox vaccine.
I hadn't even thought of that, yeah.
So you got to make sure that you get these kids immunized. The best safety net area is the hospital. If you can't find your doctor, go to the hospital and find out where the clinic is and tell them what the emergency that you have is, or what problem you have. I think it's important, you can't just neglect it. What about the homebound? I mean, who's going to visit them to see how they're doing now? People can't get there, or they don't want to get there because it's such a bad area. They don't want to risk their own lives. It's a tough one. I'm not sure how you rely on family, on an infrastructure, community, and so on.
We spoke earlier, and having said community, we spoke earlier to 2 members of our staff that came back to visit. They were completely devastated by the storm, and they talked a lot about the generosity of humankind. What they found is people are bringing prepared foods, and they're bringing these meals, and they're coming from, they have no idea where. But I mean, when you're suffering in that type of devastation, you'll take a hot meal wherever you can get it. But now there's that issue of how do you store this food? You know, how long can food stay out? Any
You're looking at hours. You're looking at, you don't want food being out more than 6, 7 hours, and then it begins to spoil. I think it helps people feel that they're doing something, gives them some empowerment, that they're trying to help others, makes them feel better about the whole event. Either they have that survivor's guilt that, why weren't we hit like this and they were hit, or you're going through your own problems, but it helps you to forget the problems. The #1 health risk, though, to this thing is not cuts, not broken bones, it's the mind. And people, you're not going to see it right away, but you may see it a year later, 2 years later, of their children having behavioral problems, being afraid to go in near the water. These are the things, the post-traumatic stress, and the sooner that it's treated, the less likely or the less severe the events, the symptoms are going to be. So people walking around who are trying to say, well, I can deal with this, I'm a tough guy. You can't, you can't escape
You mentioned that you're going to do a show that's actually dedicated to bereavement, and what do you suggest? Where should you go? Should you speak to your priest or pastor, or should you go to a professional?
You want to go to your priest or pastor, I would say, at the top of the list. If you have faith in that person, if you know that person, if you're friendly, that would be the best place to go to. Support groups, and you can find out from the church, where are support groups in the area. That's a big thing to do. Children, they have to be spoken to. You need to sit down and ask them, what are you feeling? Because they're going to be reserved. They're not going to come out and tell you a lot. They may just have nightmares, and you notice a change in their behavior. You've got to speak to them about it, because the sooner you speak to them, the better or the less severe their condition is going to be.
Extremely important point. Thank you so much, Dr. Gardner. And I want one last question before we go. I read a couple of news articles about viral outbreaks in these schools and a lot of facilities where there are so many people just packed in together. you have to go to these facilities if you have nowhere to go. What are some safety issues and perhaps ways to prevent these types of outbreaks in your opinion?
It's a great question, because people think they get the flu in the winter because it's cold outside. They get it because people stay indoors and they're in close proximity to one another. So what you want to do is make sure you're immunized. That flu vaccine, you've got to get that. So if you haven't gotten it already, it's one of the things you should seek after, because you're going to be in close quarters. You, again, get the Purell in there so you can wash your hands, not only for the germs, but all these toxic materials that are in the air and the ground and the water. So you want to wash your hands with that. You want to cough into your sleep as opposed to in your hand. And teach, a good opportunity to teach the kids proper hygiene so that they're not, you don't want to share glasses of Coke with someone other, you know, drink your own glass of soda.
Right.
Don't share towels with people. So common basic sense things that you do all year round. Maybe we can make a positive out of this by teaching the better hygiene.
Oh, that's the perfect last word. This is such valuable information. Dr. Garner, thank you so much for joining us. We have to have you back more often.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Up next, our School of the Week as Currents continues. Welcome back. As some semblance of normalcy begins to return to our area, we return to our School of the Week feature. Tonight, we visit a great school named after a great saint.
We are St. Gregory the Great Catholic Academy, which is located at 2520 Church Avenue in the Flatbush area of Brooklyn.
We are very much faith-oriented at St. Gregory the Great School. We try to give them an awareness on a daily basis by praying in the morning and, you know, incorporating religion into all our subjects.
And children are able to come and explore. Children are able to learn. It's a friendly environment, and the teachers and faculty are very warm and welcoming.
We are on a mission, the mission of Jesus, to go serve the people. The religious aspect of our school makes us different in that our students are exposed to prayers, they're exposed to songs, they're exposed to being unique individuals who can be disciples of Jesus.
The school was established by the Sisters of Mercy on September 16th, 1912. And from the time we reached the 99th year, we began celebrating the 100th anniversary. And this included all the achievements that we made over the 100 years.
Oh my goodness, 100 years. 100 years and still standing and still going strong. This is a great achievement. It started on, you know, just a minimal basis, and now we have, you know, branched off to, we have progressed to a full-fledged academy.
We have upgraded our computers and we have moved into Smartboard. And I'm one of the teachers who use Smartboard almost every day because I love it. The children get to interact with the board and the lessons are more stimulating, more motivating, and I love doing it. So I want to think that the school has really gone on to a next phase in that we are able to use the technology to boost our teaching and learning.
I'm teaching second grade, and I thought that would have been very challenging. And it has been, but it's also very rewarding for me, the second graders, to teach the smaller ones. Because if I can take a child from point A to point B, there's something that is more personally rewarding.
This school has been there for eons of years. So I'm part of a community that maybe began from the basics and now we have grown. It seems as though it's a new growth that has taken place. And I am getting the opportunity now to grow with this new community.
It's such a small school and it's such a close-knit school that everyone knows you, you know the students, you want the best for the students, and they can see that.
I love the kids because they are very studious, they are entertaining, they are very jovial, and I think for the years I've spent here, we have gotten a great success from our students, and this is why I love St. Gregory the Great Catholic Academy.
And thank you for joining us. Be sure to be here on Friday for Currents Week in Review. Until then, visit us online at currentsny.net. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching and have a good night.
Thanksgiving pictures. What else do you see over here? On the left. They are on our left. Okay, quietly. Sit.
y was negative x minus 1. Do you follow? Yes.